DB, before we get too far down the rabbit hole. I know this was, you didn't participate in the Husker Super Six this year. Your son did, ironically enough, in being one of the participants.
I'm disappointed, man. Schaefer just asked me to do a deal with him a couple of days ago. I wonder why he conveniently left out Super Six. He's usually giving me a hard time about being the last to get my list in.
I think me and Andrew might have been the last ones to get our list.
Yeah, I took that role this year.
We both.
Glad I could rub off on you guys.
But so obviously, like outside of Dylan Raiola, who's kind of the obvious one, was there anybody on that list that either you were surprised didn't make it or surprised did make it?
Yeah, I mean, mine would be way different. Like, I would probably go, like, this is off the top of my head, so I may be missing one, but I would probably go Raiola, Buford, Bricks, Barney Jr., Gradney.
You can put Caleb at 6, it's fine.
Well, I know he made the list. I would have called him a sleeper.
Okay.
But let's say you put him at 6. I still have like 3 sleepers. I like Keelan Jones. I like or Keelan Smith. I like Donovan Jones, and I like Guthrie. Like, I think those guys are like true sleepers. Like, I mean, Caleb's going to get a lot of in-state love, and I think he had one national guy that really liked Caleb, so that's cool. And I know he made like the Big Ten promo, so I mean, whatever. But I don't like, if I had in a perfect world, he wouldn't play as a freshman. And since a lot of people don't think he's like over the top athletic anyway, he probably won't, which I chuckle about. But I would like for him to redshirt personally. Let him train because I think, selfishly, everything else, he's like a human cheat code as a player. Like his IQ is really, really high. He's going to get concepts. He understands offenses. He definitely knows how to watch film. Like, he knows what he knows what he's looking for, and he's not easily distracted. So those are the things that I think could make good college players. The physical attributes will come. So I look at a guy like Gradney. Like, why is he on my Super Six? I think he comes from a situation where he's not going to need a babysitter. I think he loves playing. I think he's a tough kid. I think he's mentally tough. Like, you guys know me long enough. Like, those are always key components. I think Buford is mentally tough. I think Bricks is mentally tough. I think Dylan Raiola knows, contrary to popular belief, he's transferred this, that. I think he's mentally tough. Like, he comes from a stock in which he's not going to pull a 180 going away from his dad or his uncle's competitiveness. His mom is tough. Like, so those are the guys that I kind of gravitated towards. Keelan Smith knows how to train. Donovan Jones knows how to work. Rex Guthrie is tough-minded. Like, those are the guys I went with, and I'm sure it's no disrespect to who was popular, like Carter Nelson and some of these other guys. Like, I know that's going to be a glaring omission off of my Super Six, but it's not personal. I'd rather be closer to try to be right than well liked. So I didn't do the popularity thing.
Now, DB, you mentioned you'd like to see Caleb redshirt, but you'd probably like to see most of these guys redshirt, right?
Yeah, 100%. Especially if you're in the secondary.
Yeah.
Right. Like, they'll have a couple of corners. I think they'll have a corner spot or two available. Like, they'll play a young guy there. I'm pretty sure of that. So maybe that's why I used Buford. But I like Buford because I know he's a little undersized, but he's physically, I think he's fairly tough. He knows how to train, which is an underappreciated deal. Like, I can't tell you guys, like, after 20 years, I think why I have a feel for this is I'm focused on things that I think other people may not think about. Like, can you do the same thing 10, 11, 12 days in a row? Can you stay dialed in? Can you not have to have constant feedback? Can you go unattended or attended to and still feel your value? Like, those are like hidden things that I think really, really matter when you want to play big time athletics.
Man, okay. So the last one you said there got me. Can you go unattended to and still feel your value? Because that one is not just hard for athletes. That one's not just hard for college kids. That one's hard for everybody, right? Like,
yeah,
that is
a lot of it is it's how you've been raised. It's the environment you've been in. It's how much has your self-worth been instilled in you. Like, it's difficult, right? But though it's definitely a skill you can develop and kind of own in on. And so those are the things, and they're telltale signs, right? Like, there are definite telltale signs that you can look at, like underrated. Like, let's use Ashworth. Let's use a Blue Jays example, right? Off malign, kind of the popular whipping boy early. Like, he stayed the course.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, look. Or, Hoiberg at Nebraska, it's, well, he's not this, he's not that, he doesn't look like this. And when it matters, like, he flourishes. Like, those are things. CJ Stroud. And you're like, dude, he was highly ranked. He's a 5-star. You hear people talk about his aptitude, or the Ohio State quarterback jinx, or having all these good receivers and being a product of the, like, he couldn't care less, right? Like he just keeps playing. So I think that's like 85% of it. And being close to this football team down in Lincoln, I kind of, I try to get a feel for, that's why I'm a big babysitter guy, right? Does or doesn't need a babysitter. Like, those are things that ultimately I think are going to matter.
Well, we're talking to Damon Benning here on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline. What we're talking about here is really the ability to internally validate yourself, right? Like, having that
right.
validation come from inside. And you could make the argument that that's one of the things Matt Rhule is trying hardest to do. We talk about,
it might be number one, Ravi. It might be number one.
I was going to say
you
that
matter,
or accountability, right? Like, what's one of those two?
You matter. You belong. Let's go get this thing. I listen.
When he's talking about, like, instilling confidence, that's what he's talking about, though, right?
100%. 100%. Like, it ties into the things that he says when he's like, I'm riding with the guys that believed in us or believed in me before the finished product is out there, right? Like, and he'll say this, make no mistake about it. We're going to win at a high level. Who's in before that? I understand the skepticism, young player, of, are we going to win enough, and the pressure and this, that, but do you value you enough to know that you're going to matter? Like, how does that sit with you, young man? He didn't, oh, by the way, reference Mazuka needing to understand it's more than just football. Like, that's going to matter when you're still setting the culture. Now, his culture is way ahead of the game. Like, I'm not, I wouldn't say shocked. I am, for a team that gave away games, I'm shocked that their sense of self-worth and belonging is as high as it is, which lets me know it's about things other than the end result. Like, this team has become very process oriented, and now we'll see how many wins that yields, but it absolutely matters, because you have to be secure in who you are. There's no other way to function at a high level than to be secure in who you are. It's why Iowa is Iowa, right? It's why Michigan settled into being Michigan. Well, they're not this, and they win close games, and they're like a boa constrictor. It's a slow squeeze. And like, yeah, absolutely. Like, that's what we do. It's not flashy. but it's effective. So I think that matters.
Now, DB, if there was a Super Six for coaches, would Glenn Thomas be number one for developmental purposes of Dylan Raiola, the nearly unanimous number one in this Super Six?
Oh, I think he's going to be paramount. And how about, gosh, so the devil's in the details for some, but in others, it tells the message. Did you hear Coach Rhule talk about the evolution? He was very descriptive. He talked about a Matt Ryan from a PJ Walker, right? So you get a range in talent and even aesthetics, even style of play. Then you sprinkle in a Charlie Brewer. And he told you all you need to know. When I told you he's constantly evaluating and never satisfied, when he said, with Sat, he's aggressive. He's aggressive in nature. So you can't always be like that with your quarterbacks.
Mm.
You remember he said that in the press?
Yeah.
Like he said it out loud.
Yeah.
He didn't use it as a negative. He spun it as, I'm going to play to his strengths, where he doesn't have to split time as an OC, where you have to balance that out. I'm going to get a guy that's good with young guys, that's good with old guys, and allow him to play to his strengths. If that isn't coaching development, I don't know what is. And he told it to you out loud. Zero guesswork. Zero. He gave you the blueprint.
DB, we want to switch gears here with you real quick. We mentioned earlier in the week that this will be Andrew's last day on the show. Still with Hurrdat Sports. Still will be doing a lot of stuff with the social media team. And, I think that left some people wondering what would be happening with the morning show. Would you like to share anything?
What is happening with the morning show?
I think I'm going to have a new co-host on Monday.
Yeah, it'll be good to be back. And I appreciate the opportunity. There's been a lot of self-reflection and growth in the meantime, and a multitude of areas, right? Just the own self-inventory and self-assessment. I do actually miss it, which I didn't think I was going to. I really did. Like the first, couple of months, and maybe that has a lot to do with guys like Dr. Stark and DJ Rezak and some of these guys that were invested early. My mom was key. I saw her about every 3 mornings, right? Yeah. Hey, you need to go to the store. You need to go pick up prescriptions. Just understanding, being well-rounded. Mm-hmm. And instead of trying to be everything to everybody else, just trying to figure out how I can continue to function at a high level. Recruiting's over and I'm not scrambling trying to, keep my family on an even emotional keel. And I am excited to come back and hopefully we can pick up where we left off. I'm super proud of Andrew. Just his ability to evolve and adapt and be super transparent as a young guy, I think is incredibly difficult. And I think his versatility and being selfless will serve him well. He's very other-centered, and not to talk about you like you're not here, Andrew. I know you are.
It means the world to hear that from you, man.
I'm well aware, but you may take those skills for granted, and because it's just part of who you've been raised to be. But it is definitely going to serve you well. So I'm extremely appreciative, and I can go back to beating up on Ravi for a little bit, and we can talk. We can talk generational talents and
do people still bring that up to me?
Generational talents. You no longer have to talk about Kirk Cousins being a trash quarterback.
Yeah, we've been there, right? I mean, we've had some Kirk Cousins discussions and with me and AR-15. And wait, forget it. Like
you can say it. You can say it.
I'm saying AR-15. You guys are gonna have to be mad at me. Maybe, gonna have to get rid of me. But yeah, I just I'm pretty excited to make it happen for folks.
So the headline there is Damon will be back on Monday. It will be Damon and I moving forward as Andrew transitions into another role here at Hurrdat Sports. I do want to say, kind of to echo what DB said about AR here. There very well might not be a morning show for DB to come back to, if not for the work that Andrew Rogers.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Like, he helped us keep this thing afloat and alive and thriving,
and it was tough.
Yeah, it was a challenging situation for everybody involved, and so yeah, I appreciate so much what Andrew's done. Getting thrown back into a 5 a.m. wake up every day is not the easiest thing in the world.
What do you mean? I love it. I love it.
When you're not,
I gotta tell you. I really appreciate the kind words from you both, and I don't want to get all soft, but I mean, you two have been such a good mentors and role models for me in this process as well. But I tell people this all the time. Every morning I hate getting up at 5 a.m. I do, but you remind yourself that you're working your dream job.
Yeah.
And that's how you get through it. Like, you may be cursing, your way to the car door in the morning, but once you get there, it's just like, man, I remember why I love doing this and why I'm here. DB, I got to ask one more thing before we let you go for today. Because Scary Gary asked this middle of the segment, and it was when we were talking about the Super Six and leaving Carter Nelson off the list. I also left Carter Nelson off the list, and the reason I did was I'm unsure about the transition from 8-man to 11-man in the college game. That's just what I've seen based on covering high school in Iowa in my short time. So that's why I left a little bit of wonder out in the air. Why did you leave him off your list?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. Number one, I'm not sure where he's going to play. And I know most people use that as a positive, and it's fine, right? Like, obviously being pro Nebraska, on the network, and I want Nebraska to be good, and I definitely want him to flourish. But I'm not sure I don't think he can be an inline tight end. Is he going to be dynamic enough off the outside? How is he going to handle coverage, read coverage? I just don't think you can throw him jump balls early. And I look at, this is crazy, but I look at the transition that Malachi Coleman had to make and what it took for that even to get the opportunity, right? Like, some things had to fall in place. He had to stay with it. There was the learning curve. You have to be physically gifted enough. I think, in this offense, it's a little more difficult for wide receivers from a concept standpoint, and for sure tight ends than I think people think. So I think the level of physicality, the rigor that I think he's going to have to put his body through in terms of his comp, because there's a lot for guys to touch. He's very angular and he's very lean. And so when you've been the biggest, baddest guy, I think sometimes that can be an adjustment period. And I'm not telling you anything that I think people don't know. I just felt like from a impact and talent standpoint, I feel safe with my 6.
DB, we're going to have to work on those hard outs again.
Yeah, welcome back to Hard Outs.
I will see you on Monday, buddy.
Yeah, looking forward to it. AR, you're still the man.
My man, dude. I appreciate you.
Matt Rhule coming up on Hurrdat Sports Radio.